Just a quick question. I want to just make sure that everyone is receiving their email messages, and if you're not, definitely let us know. I think it's pretty important.
Yeah. Okay, so again, welcome everybody to the Business Fundamental Friday webinar with Kelly Frazier, Garrett Pearson, and Scott Brandley. We're so excited to have you guys on the call and those that are watching the replay. We appreciate you being a part of our community. This week is all about tips. And so all of us, Kelly, Garrett, and Scott, we're each going to share a short tip that we think has helped us in our lives, helped us be better people, and help us grow our businesses. So we are going to go to the teaching moment, as we call it, which again will be taught by Kelly, Garrett, and Scott. So we're going to start off with Kelly.
All right. Thanks so much, Garrett. Well, I wanted to talk today about different drives that we're given and that they are absolutely vital gifts. And there's three of them in particular. And when these three get neglected, there's absolute trouble brewing. Caring for ourselves really does get the least attention, whereas loving ourselves seems to be talked about a great deal. And while I agree that love is the most important game changer to the universe, caring, I feel, has to be the catalyst of that love. So my tip today is to help you make giant progress in that area in a short amount of time. So we're going to talk about giving your mind a break, stretching your body's capacity, and putting caring into your heart. So we're going to start with the mind. I don't know how many of you know it, but back in 2007, I had an accident and ended up with a traumatic brain injury. And I had to relearn many things and try to save what was left of my memory and my life. And on the road to recovery, I began researching how the brain works. Well, our brains are all hardwired, and I really mean that quite literally. We're wired to mirror what we see around us, as in a baby doesn't learn to talk unless he mirrors his parents, right? A student doesn't learn math unless he mirrors the teacher's math skills. So when we learn about relationships from our parents, and whether they're happy relationships or sad relationships, that is what we learn. So that's why I say that we're all hardwired, and we have mirror neurons that fire off in our brains, and that actually it's logical and emotional responses. It's all automatic and it's all subconscious. So in my research, I discovered that in order for my brain to rewire itself, I needed new images and new inputs and new thoughts. I studied anything I could get my hands on, and literally that's how I felt, because I really knew that I needed to heal. So I studied anything that was positive, anything that provided me with a great attitude and an attitude of gratitude and positivity. And the great thing about that is that my brain at times was like that of a baby. So my growth was quite different during that time than what it was when I grew up. So I created new mirror neurons. So to me, it was an actual blessing that that happened. Now, the second thing that my brain needed was complete hydration. Without drinking water day in and day out, and sometimes all day long, my brain was contracting rather than expanding. And every organ in your body does the exact same thing when it's not hydrated enough. So this is where migraines and disorders and disease actually can start to plague you. So your organs are going to look for hydration from other parts of your body. Now, the third thing that I discovered was extremely needed for me and for everyone is at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I mean, do anything you can to get more sleep. And what I'd like to encourage you to start today for your mind is to take in only that which is positive, to build those mirrored neurons and get plenty of sleep and drink, drink, drink. So for your mind, that is exactly what I would recommend. Now, here's what I discovered about the body during that time. When I went into habitual stress, meaning I would hold on to stress for, who knows, it could be hours, it could be days, but my nervous system, which was attached or is attached to my brainstem, like it is attached to your brainstem, it also has this limbic area of the brain, and I would become disoriented. Well, the prefrontal cortex of my brain probably lit up like a Christmas tree, and therefore the focus became the stressed area of my brain. And you probably know it in terms of a tension headache. So when you get, a severe pain in your head, you really need to take a look at the stress level in your body. So when your body is holding on to stress, do you ever notice that you can't think clearly? Do you go into a brain fog? And I'd like to know that. If you guys can just put into the chat, do you ever feel that way when you feel yourself holding on to stress? Do you ever get a migraine or go into a brain fog? And then what do you do about it? Well, first, to understand that, what I'm talking about here does take time and practice to care for your body like this, but you have to let go of the outcome of whatever it is that you're fighting with or feeling stressed over. Now, I'm going to give you an example. The day before this launch that I had, this was a huge launch for me, everything within technology started to fall apart the day before the launch. And my team was scrambling, and I took on a lot of stress for several hours until finally I was like, that's it, I quit. I can't do this anymore, which was a good thing because my brain said, you know what? You're right. You can't do anything about this, so let it go. So I realized that the outcome is what was stressing me out, and I literally had no control over the outcome. So I sat down in my husband's recliner. I just took some deep breaths, and I just started to just sit with the feeling of panic without all the drama, without all the judgment and everything going on around me. I just let that feeling of panic just sit there. And then I started to feel where it was inside of my body, and it was in my neck, my shoulders, my chest. So I started to just quietly release the outcome, releasing the tension. When I got up, everything was right with the world again. My attitude and my, gratitude reignited, and then I'm happy to say that I'm having a fabulous launch so far. And I think this is such a vital, vital component to everyday life because we are inundated with things that cause us stress. So, although I believe exercise too is extremely important, it isn't everything. If you find that you're hanging on to too much stress, you've got to pull away, go find a recliner somewhere, and just allow your body to relax. Care enough about your body to feel what's happening inside of it and really listen when it needs a break. Now, the last thing is the heart, and this is very quick, but most high achievers are hard on themselves. We critique and judge not only ourselves, but other people as well. So here's what I want you to do to open up the compassionate side and the caring side of your heart. I would love for you to write down every act of kindness that you do during the day for several days in a row. Focus on the goodness of other people and what they do for you as well. And write those things down too, whether or not someone said or did something kind for you. Now, you might be thinking, oh, this is a little touchy-feely, and you know what? It's really not. I mean, I can promise you one thing. Your heart will feel filled up with love when you can learn to care about yourself and others on a daily basis. Your judgments will disappear, and those harsh things that you say to yourself when things go wrong, honestly, your heart is way too important to allow anyone to allow it to be sad or to beat it down. So again, I just want to encourage you to journal those words of kindness for your heart. So that's it for my tips for today.
Awesome, Kelly. That was great.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
Um, we were thinking, me and Scott, as you were talking, and a book that we read that we really liked that goes along with exactly what you're talking about is called "The Power" by Rhonda Byrne, the creator of The Secret. And The
Mm-hmm.
Power is a really good book that talks a lot about what you just talked about. So we just wanted to recommend that to everybody. It's The Power by Rhonda Byrne. Um, Kelly, before we get to Scott's tip, Kelly started her Mastermind Master Money launch this week, and we sent out an email to everybody that's a member of the Business Fundamental Fridays. So we hope you got that. But if you didn't, check just make sure that you're getting our emails into your inbox. But Kelly, why don't you just tell people where to go so they can just check out those videos,
Oh,
those
absolutely.
free videos that you're sharing with everybody this week and
Yeah,
next.
we've got 4 free videos, and you can easily access them by going to mastermindandmoney.com. So it's master master mind mind and money money.com. Thanks, Garrett.
Cool. Awesome. So Scott's actually writing that you need to send it to everybody. So in the chat area. And then we're going to turn the time over to Scott as soon as he sends that. And thanks again, Kelly, for that awesome tip.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. My tip is become a master of BS, and BS stands for building systems. So The two main parts of building systems are innovation and automation. And one of my favorite quotes is from the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't read that, most of you probably have, but if you haven't, it's an awesome read. Um, in that book, Robert Kiyosaki's got basically contrasts the story between his dad and his friend's dad, who was wealthy, and how both of them taught him different areas about life and business. Well, one of the things his rich dad taught him was that um, if you want to be successful and rich, um, do less. So the less you, basically, he said, the less you do, the more money you'll make. And when I first read that, I thought, well, is he telling him to be lazy? But no, in reality, what he's telling him is to build systems, to try to actually automate your business and innovate your business to the point that that everything's running automatically for you so that you can do more things. It's all about leverage. And a funny thing happened the other day. I have a rental property, and my realtor came into our office. We were doing some paperwork, and one of our people here was printing off the copies of the documents. I was showing him what we do here, and I was showing him, Trust Guard and Shopper Approved and Rhino Support, and I was showing him the websites and telling him how they work. And then I showed him the book that Garrett and I wrote, and then I showed him the business we do on the side, UtahRunning.com and RunUtah.com, and his eyes were just getting bigger and bigger, and he's like, "How do you have time to sleep?" and I'm just like, Mike, everything we do is automated. We have systems that run everything. And he was just fascinated by it. So I want to just give you one example of the power of building systems to show you, how this works. And this actually came about the other night. I was watching the building of the Panama Canal with my wife. And basically, this is a really, really cool story. And I'm just going to kind of give you the highlights. But this really shows the importance of building systems. So when the United States was getting established in the early 1900s, they decided that they wanted to build the Panama Canal. And so Roosevelt hired an engineer named John Finley Wallace. And they went down to the Panama Canal. They had 3,500 men. And there was a lot of pressure to what they called make dirt fly. So they wanted to see that something was happening there. And so when John Wallace got down there, that was the first thing he told the workers to do, is to start digging. Now what they needed to do was they needed to build a 50-mile canal from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And the original idea was to build the canal so it was at sea level. So they had to actually dig down to sea level all the way across this 50-mile stretch of Panama. Well, when they started and they realized that this is going to be a huge task, and everything that possibly could go wrong went wrong, and because they didn't really have any infrastructure. And so within 1 year, John Wallace quit, and tons of people died, and hardly anything got done, but it cost $78 million, which at the time was a huge amount of money. So then what happened was they were thinking about actually shutting down the project, and instead they decided to hire another engineer. His name was John Stevens. And the first thing John Stevens did, it was radically different than what John Wallace did. John Stevens came in, he shut everything down immediately for 1 year. And for that year, all he did was build infrastructure and innovate the processes that were happening before he got there. And some of the cool things that he did was, the first thing he did was he retooled the entire railway system that they had there. And one of the things he did was he created shifting tracks. So these tracks, you could actually lift them with a crane and move them without having to take the tracks apart. And so that saved tons of time. And then the other thing he did was he changed all the railway cars so that they were flatbeds, and he made a big, huge plow. And the plow could push all the dirt off of 20 cars in 10 minutes. And so those two innovations alone, they've they figured that it replaced the labor of 900 men. And then another thing that happened, and you can see in this picture at the bottom, the elevation picture. There's a mountain range on the one side of the canal there. So they had to dig down through that. So what he did was he actually started digging on both sides of the pass, and he would bring the trains in on an angle empty, and then he would fill them and use gravity to bring the trains back down the pass, which saved a ton of time and effort. And then the coolest thing that he came up with was the idea of locks. And so you can see in this top map here, there's a big, huge lake in the middle of Panama. Well, that wasn't there when they first started. That was a river. And so what he realized is if they built locks on either side of the canal, they didn't have to dig down to sea level. They could actually build locks up. And then if they flooded the river, it created this big lake. And so then they could float the ships across the lake to the locks on either side. And it just saved an incredible amount of time. In fact, when they first started, they thought it was going to take 50 years to dig the canal. And he had it, the whole Panama Canal was opened within 10 years total. And that included the first year that John Wallace wasted and the 1 year that he took to redesign and retool everything and come up with these strategies. So it's just a great example of the importance of building systems, of automating and innovating everything that you do. Whenever you do something that's repetitive, that is time consuming, step back and think about, what can I do to automate this? What can I do to innovate, to cut costs, to make it easier? What can I do so that to do less work? And eventually that'll help you make more money.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Scott. That was a great example. So thank you, Kelly and Scott, for the awesome tips this week. Now it's on to Garrett, me. And today my tip for you guys, I'm going to keep this short, is all about micro decisions. Okay, micro decisions. It's the small things that make you successful, not the big things. And an example that I'm going to give you is there's a lot of people out there that have the goal of making $1 million. And so that's big. Okay, that's big. And so the goal or the desire is to make $1 million. And this is just an example. That might not be your goal, but let's just use this as the example. Now, did you know that it takes $2,739.73 a day to make $1 million in a year? See, what happens is people focus on their big, huge goal. And so they write down $1 million on their vision board, and it's just too overwhelming. They don't focus on the micro decisions of, hey, the micro decision that I need to make today is how am I going to make $2,739 today, tomorrow, and the next day? And so what I want you guys to focus on is when you're making your goals, when you're going out through your life and you're trying to accomplish and be successful in your life and in your business, focus on the micro decisions that you make every day. Whether it's today's micro decision is I need to take a break. I've been working too much. I'm not being productive. So my micro decision today is I need to take a break. Then maybe your micro decision tomorrow is I need to call 5 people and about whatever. Okay, so it's all about the micro decisions that you're making each and every day that is going to make you successful. And I learned this through interviewing some very successful people when I wrote my book, What Success Takes. When I've studied successful people, they make small, smart decisions every day. They don't make huge, big decisions each and every day. They make small, micro decisions every day. So the question is, what micro decision can you make today to move you forward towards your goals and to make you more successful. So everybody, that's our tips for the week. We're going to open it up to Q&A. We're so excited that you guys are here with us, and we do appreciate you. We hope you enjoy these each and every week, and again, if you can't make it each week, just remember we do have the replays. So next week's BFF webinar is next Friday, as always, June 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you mark that in your calendars. And next week, Scott is going to have the teaching moment, and he's going to talk about what customers really want from you. And that he's got a hint there for us. It's not your product or service. Okay, what customer really want from you? It's going to be awesome. And this is something that we actually learned from Andy Jenkins. We went out to Andy Jenkins' house. Actually, we've become friends with him, and we learned some really cool things that Scott's going to talk about next week. So make sure you're here next week. We just wanted to give you guys a reminder. So now on to Q&A discussion. Now again, communication tips. Raise your hand if you want to talk. Okay, if you want to talk, then raise your hand and make sure you have a mic. You can also chat and ask your questions in the chat area. So you guys can go ahead and start asking your questions. Some Q&A guidelines while you're doing that is make sure you introduce yourself, be specific, okay? Be specific with the question, and if you want to share tips or share things, then be quick and be specific. No selling, and keep it short, okay? So let's see if we got any questions there. Kelly and Scott, you can help me out there too. Looks like you guys are being shy.
Well, Garrett, while they're thinking about what their questions might be for this week, I just wanted to thank you for your tip this week. I think that's a fabulous tip. And, you know, I had a discussion about that with someone who was talking about a book, and they wanted to know what was the best micro decision to make because they had an invitation to pay for a book to be part of, and then they had a micro decision to do something smaller that they didn't have to pay for. And so, you know, just really trying to break it down and define what is the best decision for me. Sometimes it's just today, but sometimes it's down the road. You know, it just depends on where your business model is. But I think it's a great idea to really boil it down like you suggested. I really am grateful for that tip.
Well, thanks. Kelly, Brenny's asking, I could only access one video, which was rocking. Awesome. I could see the other three at top, but not access. So explain that, Kelly.
Yeah, actually, you should have gotten an email message today, Bryn, for the second video, which is just posted, and 3 and 4 will be coming, but they're not posted just yet. So I hope that, and if you did not get it, let me know, and I'll make sure that I check that out and the reason why.
Yeah.
I'm sure glad that you're there, though, Bryn. That's awesome.
Cool. Okay, guys, so each week we open up these lines and open up everything to questions. And so we, you know, that's why we're here. So make sure that you guys start thinking of your questions. Here's some ideas that you can think about. What are some tips that have made you successful? What are some of your biggest challenges in life and business right now? What tip would you like to ask us to help you grow your business? What is an action item you've been inspired to take today? So those are some ideas to help you guys with asking questions. Eric says 3,000 per day equals 6 customers at 500 profit per customer.
Is he talking about to make $1 million?
Yeah, Eric, can you? It's a question, but if you could clarify that for us. Brenny thinks it was good. I wanted to watch them all. And Will, awesome.
Yeah.
Good, thanks, Brenny. Caroline is sharing a tip. Best business decision I ever made was investing in a coach. Awesome. I think we could all agree. For those of us that have invested in coaches and mentors, we totally understand. So that's a great tip. So, you know, invest in a coach.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing these calls. Is in a way we're kind of becoming proxy coaches where we're trying to help you think bigger.
Right. Yeah. So Eric is saying money. 3,000 per day, 6 customers, 500 profit.
I'm thinking it's just breaking it down. How to make $1 million, breaking it down. If you could get 6 customers to pay you $500 every day, you'd make $1 million.
Right. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that's great. And it's just micro things, you know. What am I going to do today to get those 6 customers? What am I going to do today to reach out to a joint venture partner that can help me reach that goal? What am I going to do? What micro decision am I going to make today to lose weight? That's something that I've been working on, and Scott's been helping me with that. I'm not like extremely overweight, but I could lose a couple chub pounds there. And so it's just micro decisions, micro little things like, okay, don't eat that and do eat this. That's a micro decision.
Right.
Do that and don't do this. Just those little things that can help us out. So Jacqueline raised her hand. Okay, Jacqueline, we're going to unmute you.
Hello.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Hi.
Hey, nice to talk to you guys.
You too.
Well, first off, I want to say congratulations. I think it's just exciting what you're doing, and I think it's really wonderful because just the fact that we can mastermind every week and come on here and share best strategies and ask questions, I think is wonderful. And my question is about mastermind groups, because I have, for the last couple of months, had in the back of my mind when I'm working with different people that I'd like to get a mastermind group going again. And I've got right now 4 of us that would be ideal. And I'm curious if you'd recommend that I start with 4 or wait till I find a couple more people.
Kelly, this is your ballpark.
Well, I didn't want to just jump in there. Hi, Jacqueline. I'm so glad to hear you. Can't wait to talk to you again. I actually would go ahead and start, and the reason is because eventually, excuse me, you might have other members in the group who might bring someone on board, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a negative to bring someone on board later. But I would definitely go ahead and get started now. And the reason is you have power right there in those 4 people. And so just utilize that power, because you never know what partnerships or joint ventures, you're going to come up against when you do decide to get together with just the 4 of you. So go for it.
Okay, sounds exciting. And I want to share with everyone that for quite some time I was in a mastermind group with you, and that was just fantastic. And that's been what has got me thinking I really want to get a group going again. So thanks a million, Kelly.
Well, thank you, Jacqueline. It was awesome being in the group with you too, and I miss you.
Yes, I miss you too, and so we'll talk about that later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jacqueline.
Take care.
All righty. Okay, Sarah Jane in the UK asks, any tips on good startup conference call faculties for small numbers that offer facilities for small numbers that offer worldwide call lines and recording facility worldwide?
I believe there is one from the UK or in the UK. It is a free conference line. Sarah Jane, I'm wondering if you have been able to Google free conference lines and found any from the UK. I know freeconferencecall.com is a really good service to use.
Yeah.
Whether or not it is part of the UK, I'm not sure. But I know that there were a couple in the top 3 on the first page of Google. There was a couple in there that were from the UK.
Yeah, Caroline says she uses freeconferencecalling.com.
Okay.
So that you might want to check that out, Sarah Jane, freeconferencecalling.com. And Kelly just mentioned freeconferencecall.com, which is one that we've used before too. That's for conference lines, but Caroline just came up with what I was just going to share is Skype. If it's just small enough, if it's a small number of people, you can use Skype, and even Google. What is it? I want to say Google Groups, but that's not it. Oh, shoot.
Well, there's a recording that you can do with Skype also. It's called vodburner.com. And Scott, if I type, they're going to hear me typing. Would you mind doing that for me? It's vodburner.com, and you can record while you're on Skype.
Awesome. So Skype and then Google, it's either Google Circles or that's more well, Google Voice, yeah, but there's Google Circles, but that's more for video conferencing. So I don't know if that would help too. That's more for video conferencing, but I think Skype's pretty much worldwide. They actually started, I think, in the UK. So I, I,
And Google
I would definitely
Plus also.
suggest that. Google Voice,
No,
yeah,
Google Plus.
Google
Google
Plus,
Plus has their own where you can actually get on video calls, and that's a fantastic way to do it too.
yeah,
And of course, there are, recording features, and I'm not familiar with it, but I do know that they have those options as well.
yeah, yeah. So, um,
Hope that helps,
who
Sarah.
asked that? Sarah, if you don't find something, if those don't work, let us know. Reply to the emails we sent you and let us know, and we'll definitely help you research that. We want to help you find something that will work for you. So let us know if some of those options don't work. Um, Miriam Burr says, "Thank you for this great call. I love the idea of micro decisions. It's similar to the Japanese Kaizen principle, which highlights the idea of engaging in a daily process of bite sized moves." Perfect. Thank you, Miriam.
Mhm.
That's exactly right. Brenny asks, "Do you suggest eye contact or get response?" A Weber down the road question mark. Just putting my first launch together for 8/8, or I get August 8th, and want to make smart choices. Thanks. Awesome. Well, we're excited for your first launch, Brenny. Let us know more about it and see, ask some questions on, because, we've all done launches, Kelly, Scott, and I, and probably others here I know Jacqueline has, and probably others here on the call. So we're definitely here to help throughout these next couple months when you're getting ready for that. But um, I, we'll tell you what we use. Scott and I, we use eye contact. It's a bit expensive, but in our opinion, they have the best deliver. Oh my gosh, deliver
Ability, deliverability.
deliverability. Sorry, everybody. Deliverability. Get Response does too, and AWeber has. All three of those are probably some of the top um, options. We've also used AWeber, which is also a great service. It really comes down to, I think you're going to spend close to the same amount of money with all three of those. So our suggestion to you would be eye contact, because that's what we use. But Kelly, why don't you share yours, and anybody else on the call if you've used a different one that you guys like. Um, Kelly, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I used Instant Customer, which is a fairly new program with Mike Koenig's. It's actually an old program that they've kind of revamped and changed. It used to be Monster Follow Up, and now they changed it into Instant Customer. I have used that, and it can be costly. Right now, for this launch, I'm using one shopping cart because it's like a one-stop shop. It has everything from your shopping cart to your email message, your broadcast, everything. But my favorite is the eye contact. And I agree with the guys. I mean, it truly, the deliverability is fantastic, and it's so simple. So that would be my favorite, I guess, if you
Yeah.
want to say favorite.
Yeah, I mean, you might save a little bit more money with Get Response, and it's not a bad option either. So really, you just might want to research and try some free trials and see which one you feel that's easiest. So thanks for that question, Brenny. I'm going to open Anthony up. He's raised his hand, so Anthony, I'm going to unmute you. Anthony, you there? Anthony Canty.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Good, good. Congratulations, Kelly, on your opening up what you're doing.
Thank
Wish you a
you.
lot of luck.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I have a question about content.
Okay.
When you're putting stuff, say e-commerce or email, sending out your auto responses and stuff, how do you put that together? I kind of get frustrated trying to put together content to put there. Sufficient content.
Okay, and putting it where again? Say that again. Where?
And anything that has to do with like the email, if you're going to get auto response,
Mm-hmm.
Weber, where you send out your
Right.
forms.
Okay. So I think let me ask a clarifying question there, Anthony. What is the purpose of the content? Are you trying to educate, inform, entertain, or sell?
That's where I get lost.
Okay. So so that's what I think you need to kind of do a little bit more research on when, let's say you are sending an email out to your email list, or you're writing a blog post, or you're posting something on Facebook, whatever it is. Before you do anything with content, you need to have uh, an idea or a strategic plan as to what is the purpose of this content. Now, for example, I was just up at my cabin yesterday, our family cabin, and I took some video for, just some ideas for my how to write a book um, email list. So I created a video, and I did it with a strategic plan to help them. Because one of the biggest problems people have with writing a book is they feel like they don't have enough time. So, and I've learned that through my research and asking them. And so I created a video that gave them some tips. So I had a strategic plan as to what I was going to say in that video. And then when I create the email that I'm going to share with that list, it's going to be very strategic to help them with finding more time in their life to write their book. So I think the first tip I would give you is, okay, what before you sit down to do any content, is what is the purpose of this content? And if it's to inform, then it needs to be really good content that helps them, learn about fishing, for example, as you're saying. If you're trying to sell them something, then you need to be very direct and give them examples of how the product or service can benefit their life. So why don't Kelly or Scott, you guys can chime in on that.
Well, I know, Anthony, I really understand, the thought behind sitting down and going, okay, what do I write here? I'm not exactly sure where to begin. But just like Garrett was saying, having that strategic plan in mind about what it is that you want to write about. I guess my first question to you would be, what about fishing do other people want to know? And have you taken that time to ask those questions? And maybe you might even be answering questions that you had yourself when you first started in about fishing. Really think about what is it that someone else would want to know.
Okay, sounds good.
Anthony, did those help you? And did you have anything else you wanted to?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It gave me a spot to start at because I've been putting a lot of stuff together between Anthony Morris, Ad for Action, and when it comes to putting the content in and what I'm exactly trying to say and what I'm trying to do is where I get lost sometimes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, well,
Thank you very much.
yeah, and if you want to email us or you still have some more questions, just reply to those emails and we can help you out there, Anthony. So thanks. I'm gonna
Thank you.
put you back
Love
on.
the group.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Anthony.
Thanks,
Okay,
Anthony.
so Caroline says, I think Google Voice is only in the US. That might be true. You might want to research that. Sarah Jane asks, how many people can you get on a Skype call at a time?
I looked it up. It's like 4. I sent her a link.
Okay, so Sarah, Scott sent you a link. He thinks it's about 4. For some reason, I thought you could do a lot more than that, but
Yeah, guys, you can actually, because when I first started doing mastermind calls years back, I used to do them through Skype, and we would get 8 to 10 people on the line.
okay.
The only thing I would caution you about is the more people you have on, the more likely you're going to have some issues of keeping connected, and really the connectivity is an issue when you get up that high with numbers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Sarah, again, do a little bit more research. We'll keep our ears and eyes open
So Brenny says it's 8.
for help. Brandy says Skype is 8. So that's just something. I mean, and Skype might change. Who knows? Caroline says a lot of my clients use Mailchimp, but it's not for affiliate marketers. Okay, so Mailchimp. Caroline's referring back to the question about autoresponders from Brenny. So Mailchimp is another one that I've heard of. Never used it. So thanks, Caroline. Brenny says, great, decision made, action taken. Awesome.
Woohoo!
We love
Like
action
that.
takers. All right, go ahead, Kelly, and read a couple more names
Well,
there.
the Margaret was talking about the Office Autopilot, and it's the competitor of Infusionsoft. I have not used Office Autopilot. Do you guys know much about that one?
No, we don't.
No, we
So
haven't used it.
thanks for the suggestion, Margaret. Brenny
Yeah.
or others can research that. So that's great.
All right, so then Miriam has a question for me. When joining mastermind groups, do you recommend that people join groups that have people that are in the leadership position that they are aiming for? Is it detrimental to be in a group where all are at the same level and knowledge and leadership skills? You know, this is a fascinating question. I'm really glad that you asked. I'm going to address the one where you're talking about, is it being detrimental? It really isn't. Jacqueline was talking earlier about her and I being in a mastermind group together. Here's what I find. When you can mastermind with people that are at least one step ahead of you, you're going to learn from them. And that's what you guys are doing here. You know, maybe Garrett might be a step ahead of you guys, or maybe I might be a step ahead, or Scott might be a step ahead. And so being able to mastermind with people who are one step ahead of you is a perfect foundation for you to continue building. Is it detrimental? No, I don't believe that it is to be in a group where everybody is at the same level. That was the group that Jacqueline and I had put together. We had 6 women. We called it the Power of 6, and it was phenomenal because we were able to just stay connected and really encourage each other and empower each other in different ways. We became, you know, not just friends, but we had partnerships together in different ways. And so I would say, you know, just go for it. I think it's a very powerful thing. Now, if it comes to the place where you might decide you want to have someone in a leadership position that is higher, then the biggest thing that people are afraid to do is ask. And truly, that's all it takes, is just to ask someone to say, you know, I've got this group of 6 women or 8 women or men or whatever, and we really need a leader. Do you think that this is something you could take time to meet with us on occasion and give us your ideas and your thoughts if you really feel like you want a leader in that particular group? So I hope that helps answer your questions.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Sarah Jane says, thank you so very much. You're welcome. Sarah Jane says, MailChimp is free up to a certain number and charges when you come in, I guess, when you sign up. Some recommend you start with the pay facility like Aweber. You are less likely to want to change who you are using, and transferring lists could be a problem, difficult. Yeah, that's true. So keep that in mind. So thanks, Sarah Jane. Miriam says, yes, thank you. So you answered her question, or their question. Brenny has a question. Okay, she says, me again. Well, we're happy for your questions, Brenny. Do you have a link to a good model for a webinar launch my web designer can model? I am using Wishlist, Optimized Press, and my launch is 12 weeks. 6 modules, one every other week, and question Q&A with guest host speakers for each module. The launch is Organize Your Home Office for Wealth and Productivity based on I forget how to say that, Feng Shui principles. So that's cool. That's a great market. I love that. Okay, so you want a good example or good model for a webinar launch. Now, Brenny, I guess the question needs to be asked, what webinar software are you going to use? Because that will play a role. Are you going to be using GoToWebinar, for example, or GoToMeeting? Are you going to be using an automated webinar? So if you could answer that, that will help us answer that question. While you're answering that, Brenny, in the chat area, Caroline says MailChimp is free up to 2,000 on the list, but it does not include autoresponders. Oh, that's good to know. Thanks, Caroline.
Yeah.
And Carolyn, I don't know how to say it. So if I'm saying it wrong either way, I apologize. So Brenny, if you don't mind letting us know what you're going to be using for your webinar, and just clarify that for us so that we can help you out there. Let's see, we got she's raised her hand, so she wants to talk. Awesome. Well, we're going to unmute you, Brenny. Hi, you there?
Hi, it's Brenny.
Awesome.
Hey.
Hey, Brenny.
This is just fabulous. Fantastic. Awesome. I love you guys.
We love you.
I am an action taker, too. I just need guidance once in a while.
Yeah.
I actually was in Max Simon's program.
Oh, he's amazing.
The Affiliate Tribe. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. that was like 2 months ago when I joined that. And of course, that model link is gone right now. And that's kind of what I wanted to follow. I'm going to do the recording webinars like he did, where I use Camtasia software and PowerPoint, and then have transcripts and audio also.
Okay, so it's an automated webinar.
Bingo.
Okay, so there's a couple options. I can't remember which ones Max used. He told me. I can't remember right now. We use the Mike Phil same one, the automated. Crap.
All the names are like so close to each other.
Automated webinar system, I think. That's what we use. Do you have one that you want to use? Have you researched it at all?
I'm actually looking, maybe I wasn't clear, I'm sorry. I was looking for a model as far as like the opt-in page.
Oh, okay.
That kind of stuff, so that my web designer, which I must say, yay, my first outsourcing, which have been in the past a do everything yourself girl. So I'm very excited to have a web designer. And I want to send him a model. And then I think that would be much easier for me to get the point across. So it's not very,
can you see this example here on the screen?
I can.
Okay, so this is, I don't know if you're on Max Simon's list, but he promoted my How to Write a Book training a couple months ago. And this got from his list, which is an awesome list. So, these numbers aren't always right because it depends on the list, but he got a 45% opt-in rate with this right here model.
What's the link to that?
It is.
Please. Yeah, I actually just got my fan page Facebook set up yesterday, and my web designer should have my launch page and everything ready as soon as I get him a model to follow, because he has all the content.
Awesome.
So I'm looking a week or two, but I'm going to a huge networking event of Pamela Bruner for tapping. She did the book with Jack Canfield.
Oh, cool.
Down in Atlanta. So there's 300 people there plus all the other connections. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, well, we're excited for you. And I put the link in the chat, so you should have got that.
Okay.
Now, I went this route because it kind of looked like a webinar style, so that's why I went that way. So hopefully that answers your question. I mean, we can look for some other ones. We don't have exact, I can't come up with them right off the top of my head right now, but there are some really good ones out there. And it's all different. So it depends on your market. Some people say you have to have video to invite them, which I've done some with video and they do great as well.
Russell does a lot of that.
Yeah, Russell Brunson.
My track is actually business and health because of feng shui, and I'm in a lot of business programs. So a longer webinar name would be entrepreneurs, heartfelt transformational entrepreneurs, to be very specific on the tribe. But don't want to cut anybody out because I am finding everybody has a cluttered office.
Yeah, Scott's desk, I've been bugging him. It's super messy. So, Brittany, we need you to come here to Utah and fix up some Scott's desk.
I love to travel.
So here's a really good example. This is Russell Brunson's Secret Local webinar. So this is just an example. Now he uses his own software, so you might not have some of these capabilities. But anyways, it's pretty powerful. This video is really powerful. So that's just another example that I could think of right off. Or Scott actually
there
thought
is
of
another one.
Okay.
There is another one too, and that is through Instant Teleseminar. They do have webinar capabilities, and it pretty much is like what you were saying, Brittany, just to create your PowerPoint and record it and then put it up, and that can actually run anytime. You don't even have to be there to have it run, but they also have that capability.
Yeah. Awesome. So good
You
luck.
guys rock.
Okay, thanks, Benny. We appreciate you and appreciate your questions. So good luck with your launch. So I'm gonna mute you and go
Okay,
back.
thank
Oops,
You're
sorry.
welcome.
Cut you off. Sorry, Benny. Awesome. So let's see. Okay. Caroline says evergreen. Yeah, a lot of those automated webinars are evergreen, meaning you don't have to be on the webinar, and they're really powerful if you figure out how to do them the right way, and you can do a good job. Eric Linton says, which operating system is recommended? Eric, you're gonna have to be more specific. Are you talking about for your computer or what? So if you can be more specific there. Caroline says, okay.
Interesting he got such a high opt-in rate with the CTA below the fold.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I find fascinating? I don't know if it's, Max's tribe is very heart-centered entrepreneurs who really are a lot like us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the people on the call here too. I mean, you really have to know your tribe and whether or not they're going to go for something if it's below the fold or above the fold. And I think Max knows his tribe so well that really all he's got to do is put his heart into his message. And so above the fold, below the fold doesn't necessarily matter so much in his case. I
Yeah.
don't know that I agree with that for everybody, but I do think that, in some people's case, that whole below and above really doesn't matter.
Yeah, again, it depends. And this looks like a webinar sign up form. Usually the webinar sign up forms aren't above the fold. So people are used to seeing that. So that might have been the reason too, but more than likely the reason why it got such a high opt-in rate is because of Max. And that's a good example to all of you is if you can get joint ventures and people to promote you, then the opt-in rates are going to be a lot higher than if you got just cold traffic. So it's a good point, Caroline. Caroline was referring to Mike Fissane's webinar product. Yeah, it was called
Evergreen. Yeah.
It was called Evergreen, the Evergreen
Oh,
system.
okay.
Yeah. So Eric, which operating system? Well, we haven't heard back, so
I'm gonna have to leave that one a mystery for next time.
it's a mystery. But if you're talking about computers, then me and Kelly would definitely say go Mac.
Yes.
Scott's the
PC.
oddball. Scott's the oddball out. He likes PCs, which they always crash on him, and I laugh every time they do. So Kelly and I both have Apple, our MacBook Pros, and I'm Apple all the way. So
Okay. Well, I think that's.
yeah, I
think
think
that about wraps it up this week.
yeah, guys, we appreciate all your questions. Caroline says oddballs unite. Yes, we do. Or unless you're talking about Scott, he is an oddball. So just a reminder, let me get the oh shoot. Oh boy. Next week we've got Friday, July 15th at 1 p.m. and be here and be ready with some more questions. Again, Scott's going to be talking about what customers really want from you. Hint, it's not your product. So we're going to see you guys.
Don't miss it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, see you guys next week. Caroline says, yes, it's a PC thing. So yes, you guys are oddballs. Jacqueline, thanks. I love your energy and you are doing great things. Are you all parts of Max's group? I don't think all of us are, but maybe. He's such a good guy, so maybe we all are, but I don't think so, Kelly. I mean, Scott doesn't know who he is. But
Right.
I have a good relationship with him, and so does Kelly. So
Yeah.
Anthony Canty says, great information to think about. Thanks. Yes, thank you for being here. So that's it for the webinar today. The replay will be available Monday, so look for those emails. I send those out every Monday, usually later in the day. And so look for those. If you're not getting those emails, check your junk box and make sure you whitelist the email address that we're sending those out with. So again, thanks everybody for being on the call. Brandy says thanks. See you next week.
I just want to mention one thing,
She's
Garrett.
a PC geek too. Go ahead.
I just want to mention one thing. First, I want to thank everybody, and please tell your friends and associates about this too. If they, can get on these calls, that would be awesome. The other thing I want to mention is the Facebook fan page. Please make sure that you're in there so that we can continue to inspire and encourage each other all throughout the week.
Exactly. Awesome. Thanks, everybody, and have a great weekend.
See you next week.
Bye bye.